I'm afraid I don't like Christmas. I don't like Christmas not because of what it's supposed to be, but for what it is and how it makes people. Whilst the majority of people will be able to have time off work and spend it with friends and family and get merry and have a great time, there are many people that don't have this option. There are many that can't afford it. There are many that don't even have anywhere to live. And if anybody deserves some good wishes, surely it's them. A nice Christmas gift would be to end poverty for people. But that would be impossible whilst we have wealth, because wealth is what causes poverty. You could say that without wealth, poverty couldn't exist. Because who's going to do all the small jobs? Who's going to do the sweeping up? Who's going to do the sleeping in shop doorways? This is probably going to be a rather contentious point, but I don't see why. Could you imagine a world where the wealth actually helped out the poverty for just this one day? What's responsible for Christmas being such a big, expensive job in the first place? Well, it's aspiration. It's television, influencers, advertisers, anyone that's got anything to sell. If they're very good at selling it, people will want to buy it, even if they can't afford it. That's why many families will go into debt just to try and live up to the expectations of what they see on their internet and their television. As a child, I didn't really like Christmas either, and I can tell you why. It was down to expectations. It was down to a divide. I grew up in a family that wasn't well off, and there were people around me who were. And those that were well off were happy to make a very good point of how much they did actually have. You don't have to be very old before that starts to work. And for the majority of people, it works in such a way where suddenly you start aspiring to those things and doing everything you can to get them. It's a double-edged sword, you may say, because it means that you can actually work your way into wealth, or you can work your way into depression because you can't work your way into wealth. I became a parent quite late on in life, 43 in fact, and this was one of those things where I thought, maybe that's where I'll start to like Christmas, because after all, Christmas is for children, yeah? No, it's not. It's for the economy. It's for big companies. It's for fat men with deep pockets and no beard. For most children, Christmas is very exciting, but it's exciting because they get loads and loads of things from loads and loads of people for nothing. And then, of course, they take on this idea that that's what you should do. You should buy things for people that they don't need in exchange for things that you don't need from somebody else. Having children myself means I now get to experience this planting of the seeds of greed. I want to make them happy. I want to do things like a proper parent would do. But the more they have, the more they'll want. The more other people buy them, the more they'll expect. The more somebody gets, the more greedy and precocious they become. And suddenly they've got everything and it's still not enough. By trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, that's what we all end up doing. We end up creating people that are just consumers. Have a look on TikTok or Instagram, or watch a TV advert and give it a proper thought, because people aren't people. They are simply just consumers. It's peer pressure. It's brainwashing. If you was to take the stand of, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to buy any Christmas cards because it's pointless. I'm not going to buy any presents because it's pointless. Let's all just have a nice time together without getting drunk. But people aren't going to take you seriously. Adults with their overconsumption of food and alcohol, and we all do it, don't we? And it's because it hides the misery. Drinking loads hides the misery. Drinking to moderation, fair enough. That's how you can be sociable and enjoy time with people that normally you wouldn't really be that interested in. If all of these people were honest in the first place, nobody would even need to get drunk. And then eating food, eating vast amounts of food. We all need to eat, but we don't need to do this. We don't need to eat to the excess in which we do. But then what happens? New Year and resolutions. And what does that do? You promise yourself you'll get back to where you started before all this lot began in the first place. So you roll out of Christmas feeling headachy, uncomfortable, unpopular, fat, ashamed, and then you start the whole process of New Year's resolutions so you can get yourself back to some sort of health. And that's the moment everything changes and you start being sensible and you start saving, just so you can do it all again in another 12 months' time. Gifts are a nice idea, but they should be given on a one-way system. If you're giving with the view of receiving, then you're not really giving in the first place. My ideal Christmas is going to be nothing too excessive. I'd like to stay home for the day. I'd like to spend time with my family, and I'd like them to be happy. And they're only going to be happy if they've not got themselves so wound up with the idea that they're going to have absolutely everything under the sun. Because the moment they haven't got it, they're not going to be happy, and we won't have a happy Christmas. And then I'll have to get blind drunk just so I can cope with it all.